In this video, we'll write the net ionic equation for CH3COOH plus MgOH2. This is acetic acid plus magnesium hydroxide. One thing to note before we get started, though, is that acetic acid is sometimes written this way. There's the same number of atoms in each one, just a different way to write it. We're going to go with this, though. So we have our acetic acid, our magnesium hydroxide. We need to balance the molecular equation. So this is our molecular equation, and it looks like to balance it, if we put a 2 here and here, this would be balanced. So we have our balanced molecular equation. Next, we need to write the state for each substance. Acetic acid, that will dissolve in water. It's aqueous. It's a weak acid, though, so it dissolves, but it doesn't break apart into its ions, dissociate. So it's not a strong electrolyte, but we do put the aqueous. Magnesium hydroxide is essentially insoluble. Such a small amount dissolves that we're going to call it a solid. On the product side, these acetates ion, this is magnesium acetate, acetate ion, that's very soluble, put an AQ after it, and water, we know that to be a liquid. So we have our states. Now we can split the strong electrolytes into the ions. So it's important to recognize that acetic acid is a weak electrolyte. It's a weak acid. So we're not going to split this up. We'll just write CH3COOH. I won't write the states until we're done. And we have 2 of those acetic acid molecules there. Okay. And then we don't split up solids in net ionic equations. So that's just going to be MgOH2. It's not going to change. So those are the reactants. The products, this acetate here with this magnesium acetate, that's very soluble. So we need to know the charge on magnesium. If we look at the periodic table, magnesium's in group 2. So it'll have a 2+ ionic charge. For the acetate, that's not on the periodic table. We'd look that up on a table of common polyatomic ions, or just memorize that this has a 1- charge. So we're going to put a minus here. Makes sense. We need 2 of these minuses to balance out the 2+. Water, that's a liquid. We won't split that up. So let's put our strong electrolyte, split that into Mg 2+ plus the acetate ion, CH3COO-, and we have 2 of them. So we need to have a coefficient of 2 there, plus our 2 water molecules. So we now have what's called the complete ionic equation. When we do net ionic equations, we cross out things that are the same on both sides, things in the reactants that show up also in the products. But everything's different. This acetic acid is very different than the acetate ion. So everything's different. In this case, the complete ionic equation is the same as the net ionic equation. Let me clean this up and write the states in, and then we'll have our nice net ionic equation. So this is the net ionic equation for CH3COOH plus MgOH2, acetic acid plus magnesium hydroxide. A few things to notice. This is aqueous, but because it's a weak acid, it doesn't dissociate. It's not a strong electrolyte. This is a solid because it's insoluble in water. And we have our ions here that are aqueous and our liquid water. This is Dr. B, and thanks for watching.